Coming up on the Sports Desk, it's been a whole 2 weeks out of the studio, so we recap all the prep sports scores and headlines made over the holidays, plus the biggest stories since opening up a whole new calendar. The books are closed on 2014, and somebody is off to a red-hot start in 2015. And one squad got a gift that couldn't stay boxed up till Christmas. We show you the first championship ring in Tartar history. So now, our first Sports Desk of the year gets you up to speed on who will bring more rings to Torrance in 2015. Hey there, Torrance. Happy New Year. Great to see you. I'm your host, Juan Hernandez. A lot happened since we last saw you from the Sports Desk here. Holiday tournaments, teams traveled from them. Some stayed right here in Torrance and won them. But with all the preseason hoopla for winter sports in full swing, it was actually a championship won last spring that kicked off the holiday break. Students at Torrance High were the center of a warm celebration after making history in the spring. The Torrance Tartars baseball squad won the school's first ever CIF Championship in 2014, with some players going on to college and even professional baseball. They came back for a homecoming and got to open their first Christmas gifts a whole week early. The Tartars won 27 games, including their CIF Championship victory over South High. They finished with the top 30 ranking in the state, according to MaxPreps.com. Manny Oloke was a senior we remember from that team. He's now playing third base for the Burlington Royals, a rookie ball affiliate of the American League champs in Kansas City, and Kyle Smith was the ace of that squad. He earned a baseball scholarship to Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, and he made the trip down to celebrate with his old teammates.
Just really excited for our team. What we did last year means a lot. We have a lot of pride in this school, and we're just happy that we did it, and just can't wait for all the future kids coming up in the program to follow up and do the same thing.
Meanwhile, back on the court, the Tartars basketball squad went on to win their game that same evening. They trounced El Segundo by almost 40 points in their final game before Christmas break. Then, like many other hoop squads, they hit the road for a holiday tournament. Palm Springs was their post-Christmas destination, where the Tartars won 2 and lost 2. Pleasant Grove and Capistrano Valley hand them tough competition to start things off. Torrance bounces back by winning by 30 and 16 respectively to end 2014. The Tartar turnaround took them to a third place in the tournament, earning the squad an all-tournament pick on their roster, and 3 Tartars scoring double digits in that third place game against Villa Park. And the team everybody is looking out for in 2015 will be the Bishop Montgomery Knights. Just before Christmas, the Knights suffered their first loss of the new season up in San Luis Obispo for the Mission Prep Christmas Classic. Holding almost a double-digit lead at the half, Marin Catholic stopped Bishop's game-winning attempt as time expired. The 61-60 finish left the Knights 1 point away from holding on to an undefeated season. So, would they bounce back? The answer to that the day after Christmas was a resounding yes, thumping Venice by 78 points to open the LaSalle tourney. The Thompson brothers score 52 points combined, and the next day Bishop wins by 56, facing South Pasadena. The Knights' rampage took them all the way to a final against De La Salle, winning by 5. Stevie Thompson scores 20 and earns tournament MVP honors, with Christian Oshida and Jordan Shackle earning all tournament honors as well. To start off the new year, Bishop hasn't slowed down. They took on the other top South Bay hoop squad, Redondo, at the Take Flight Challenge for their first game of 2015. The Knights shoot 50% from the field, draining 8 three-pointers against a team that's made back-to-back CIF State Championship tourney appearances, winning it all in 2012. That run extended the Knights' win streak to 6, making them the second hottest hoop squad in Torrance. That's because over at North High, the Lady Saxons were perfect in the last month of 2014. Last year's CIF semifinalists entered January with an average margin of victory just under 27 points a game. In fact, before taking time off for the holiday break, the closest anybody had come to the Saxons was an opening night 52-38 boat race against Peninsula. The week between Christmas and New Year's, featured 3 games in the West Coast Jamboree for the Saxons. Presentation out of San Jose gave the Saxons a good run, and they come to within 2, but the North High undefeated record stays intact. In the final of the Onyx Division, MVP Caitlin Sarazawa scores 14. The solid December boosted North's MaxPreps.com ranking into the top 50 in California. And the team that is ranked exactly 1 spot ahead of them at number 41 is the same squad that knocked North out of the playoffs a season ago. The West Torrance girls spent their last week of the year in Las Vegas for the Centennial Holiday Classic. They do run into 2 other teams from the Southland, beating Culver City and Sure by a combined 81 points. Henderson, Nevada's Liberty High stood between them and a perfect run through the tournament. The Warriors fall to Liberty in the semifinal in spite of Jasmine Jones and Bailey Kurahashi combining for 25 points. In the 3rd place game, they beat Reno by 2, this time with 22 points and 11 points from Jones and Kurahashi, respectively. This week, the Warriors get back to work locally, including a non-league date with the Bishop Montgomery Knights. And those Knights, Torrance's other 2014 CIF League champs, look like they're still finding their way as we settle into the midseason grind. They actually had 2 tournament appearances over the holidays. First up, in the Santa Barbara Tournament of Champions, the Knights would lose their first 2 games against Mission Hills and Orange Lutheran. They finally got on the board with a win against Newbury Park and a second tournament win over St. Joseph. In the West Coast Holiday Tournament, the Knights open up with another tourney loss, followed by another win over Newbury Park, their second against the Panthers in as many tournaments. The Knights would suffer 3 losses out in Mission Hills, dropping them to 6-8 overall by New Year's Eve. Things weren't any easier for the Knights when they came home and opened up a new year with a non-league battle against a top 25 ranked opponent. Chelsea Leidy scores 30 points against the Redondo Seahawks. It was enough to send the game into overtime and give the Knights a 2-point lead in the final seconds. Bishop Montgomery's D doesn't allow Redondo to get the game time or winning shot off as the clock expires. So, even with the up and down appearances in preseason tourneys, the Knights are still able to knock off a huge, impressive win over a solid program. Meanwhile, one more hoop squad, maybe not getting as much of the spotlight, but still winning their fair share of games in Torrance, is the girls squad at South. After an 8-0 start to the season, South stayed within driving distance for both the Arroyo Tournament and West Coast Jamboree. Their roughest stretch of the season happened in a run of about 10 days, first falling to Narbonne at the end of the Arroyo Tourney. Their opener of the Jamboree against Heritage was back to business before dropping back-to-back games against Brookside Christian and Lincoln. Their first game of the new year is a win, though, taking down Culver City. Now Pioneer League play is right around the corner for last year's league runner-up. Now up in the JUCO ranks, El Camino College features 2 basketball squads that looked very different in the month of December. The ladies got off to a hot start, going 8-2 through the first month of the season. Meanwhile, after opening the winter with home wins, the men labored through an immediate 4-game losing streak. Fortunes reversed, kind of, over the winter break, with the men earning a big come-from-behind win on the road, tied at 23 going into the half and trailing by 7 in the final 3 minutes. Emmanuel Pope ties it up with 5 seconds remaining in regulation, and the Warriors would go on to win in OT. The following weekend, the Warriors do fall to Moorpark College on the road. Now they are all dialed for conference play through the end of February. Momentum slowed down just a hair for the ladies. They close out the year at the Ventura Tournament, winning 1 and losing 2. They do win their tourney opener against Antelope Valley before dropping a game in each of the next 2 days. That brought their overall record to 10-4 heading into 2015. All right, everybody, there's your wrap up on some of the things we missed on the hardwood over the holidays. Next up, we hit the pitch.
Chris Domine is a husband and a father. Chris is an athlete. Chris is even an Ironman. But 10 years ago, Chris was facing a very different story because his kidneys were failing.
Basically, the doctor said, if you don't get a kidney transplant and if you don't do dialysis, you are going to die.
Fortunately, Chris received a second chance at life, made possible by an organ donor.
You know, your well-being changes, you know, from loss of hope to better times ahead.
More than 100 million people in America are registered organ, eye, and tissue donors. People of every age and ethnicity, because they believe it's the right thing to do. Imagine what you could make possible by leaving behind the gift of life. Learn more and sign up as an organ, eye, and tissue donor. Go to organdonor.gov.
For others, it may have just been a summer job. But for me, it was training. Now I'm an Air Force pararescueman, and my job is to save lives. Make the right choices today and be ready for the challenges tomorrow. This message is brought to you by the U.S. Air Force.
Welcome back. Just like the boys and girls on local hoop squads hit the road for holiday tournaments, so did soccer teams all over Torrance. But the biggest tourney to watch out for was taking place right here in town over the break. Boys soccer in Torrance is looking stronger than ever for 2015, with all 4 boys Pioneer League teams making the Daily Breeze's top 10 rankings. A season ago, the Torrance Tartars and South Spartans were Torrance's sole Pioneer League teams in the CIF playoffs, with neither doing any real playoff damage. North finished 2014 in last place with just 2 total wins, but this season, under a new head coach, they had already topped that win total midway through December. With newcomer West Torrance joining them all, the Pioneer League suddenly became fiercely competitive for boys soccer. All that just meant the stakes were raised a tad higher for the South Torrance Holiday Classic. The Tartars turned a few heads when they got their first-round win in several years. They needed 11 rounds of PKs to break the 2-2 tie, with goalie Brandon Hall making 3 consecutive saves to close out penalty kicks and get Torrance over a huge preseason hurdle. That win propelled them into a second-round win over Animo, and just like that, the Tartars were rolling. On the other side of town, the West Warriors faced their own PK drama. They downed Redondo 2-1 in the tourney opener before running into Corona. Denver Silver Lake shuts Corona down after the 2-2 regulation draw led to PKs. West wins 3-0 in penalty kicks there, which sets up a crosstown matchup late in the South tourney between Torrance and West. Again, this one was decided by penalty kicks. Denver Silver Lake comes out of goal for this one to score West's 4th goal of the shootout. Then he goes back between the posts and makes the game-winning save on the next kick. The Warriors edge out the Tartars 4-3 in PKs to advance to the semifinals of the South Tourney. Of course, the biggest story coming out of that matchup, the strong showing of 2 Torrance Pioneer League teams in the town's big holiday tournament. In the semifinals, West runs into Milliken, who shuts them out and ends their run at a tournament title. Against Santa Barbara, it's a scoreless draw in the 3rd place game before the Warriors end up taking 3rd place in their hometown tourney. The host school South Torrance took 9th place overall in their holiday tournament. And as for the girls at the South Holiday Classic, last time we were here in the SportsDesk studios, Torrance, South, Bishop Montgomery, and West were all making deep runs through their brackets. This time, it's the Tartars who hold the tournament crown. They beat a high-ranked Mira Costa squad in the final. Another one going to PKs, big surprise, with the Tartars winning 4-2 in the tiebreak shootout. Of course, the 3rd and 5th place games, no different. More Torrance schools and more penalty kicks needed to decide a winner. In the final rounds of the tournament, there's 4 Torrance teams playing for the top 5 spots, 4 games, and they scored just 4 goals in regulation. South falls to Peninsula in PKs 7-6 for the 3rd place game, and the matchup between West and Bishop goes scoreless, with West winning the deciding shootout 3-2. On to more tournament play and non-league games from around town. The South girls got right back to work after Christmas with a trip to the tough North Orange County Classic. The Spartans win their pool with wins over Pacifica and Dos Pueblos. After that, they fall to Cypress 1-0 and close out their year with a win over Mayfield 3-2, ending their appearance at the North OC Holiday Classic. West Torrance also made their way down to Orange County. They lose in pool play of the OC Holiday Classic 2-1 to La Quinta and Poly of Riverside. They end the year on a high note with back-to-back wins over Irvine and Beckman. The Warriors are back to business now that school's back like everybody else, and will have their first taste of the Pioneer League middle of the month. Torrance wasn't able to pick up where they left off in 2014. They dropped their first match of 2015 3-1 to Peninsula. It's their first loss of the year, coming back to class with a solid record of 6 wins, 1 loss, and 3 draws. And as for Bishop Montgomery, they turned some heads by beating South in a non-league game right before the South tourney, then advancing to the quarterfinals. They blast through the Pirate Cup over the break, winning 4 games by a combined score of 20-0. Van Nuys, San Pedro, Taft, and Verdugo Hills all get shut out against the Knights. Bishop Montgomery looking solid as they gear up for league play this month. It's a hot streak that's moved them into a top 50 ranking of Max Prep State ranking list. That's going to close the books on another week with the Sports Desk. As always, we're available on Facebook if you want to peek at what we're doing throughout the week and which games we're featuring. Facebook.com/SportsDeskTV, or if you'd like to email the show, it's the SportsDesk@torranceca.gov. All right, like I said, that wraps it up. We will see you next week.